terrific to be here. It's my very first time. And we have about 17 minutes to cover the future of health and medicine from many different angles. Of course, it's a really exciting time with technology. If you just look around us, how quickly it's moving. And it's an opportunity to reimagine how we use healthcare across the healthcare continuum, from health and prevention to diagnostics to therapy to clinical trials. And so in this short talk, I'm going to try and cover briefly where technology is now and where it's going, and how many of you, whether you're in healthcare or biotech or pharma or other fields, can start to think about applying that in your own lives and in entrepreneurship and beyond. But before we talk about the technology and the future, let's look about where we are sort of today. If you think about our healthcare system across the world, they're mostly really sick care. We spend most of our time on money treating diseases the way we have for thousands of years on old silos, defining healthcare by body parts and old ways of thinking. And our sick care system is very much based on intermittent data, an occasional blood pressure check, EKG. You may get one or two a year. You may be faxing information back and forth to your doctor or your medical center. And because our data and our feedback loops are often broken, we therefore are quite reactive with our healthcare. We wait for the heart attack or the stroke or a lump to be discovered at stage 3 or 4. I'm a medical doctor. I'm a cancer doctor. I'm tired of seeing patients who present with late stage cancers. We want to pick up disease early. So in this new world, we need to redefine health and medicine outside of the bucket of body parts and subspecialties and move from intermittent and reactive to much more continuous data and much more proactive, personalized health and medicine. And also think about how we change the design of the practice. So we're not spending an hour in the waiting room to see your doctor for 12 minutes, whether you're here in Finland or in Calcutta or anywhere around the world. The ways we've done health and medicine are stuck in the past. And technology is set to change that. Technology, of course, is an important part of it, but really more important is often the incentives. How do you layer technology with how you drive change? Because in most of the Western world, including the United States, we spend 80% of our healthcare dollar on folks who already have chronic disease. So instead of evidence-based medicine, we're practicing reimbursement-based medicine. But that's starting to change in many parts of the world. Instead of paying for every procedure, every drug, we're paying for value. We're going to reward companies, tech companies, starts and apps when the technology works, not just for prescribing it. So those are layering on top of this new world, where of course technology can now move healthcare from the traditional hospital and intensive care unit and emergency room into our bodies and into our homes, from the hospital to the home to the phone to into and onside our bodies. So tremendous changes are happening. And one of the newest ones is really, and Jordan Schlane mentioned this, about the empowered you, the consumer. Now you can own your own healthcare data. You can decide when to share it with your clinician, with pharma companies and others. And as a consumer now, you have much more transparency to compare one hospital or clinic to another, the price of a drug in one pharmacy from across the street to another. So we're trying to Yelpify medicine. And part of this is the many new tools we have at our disposal. Of course, the smartphone, these amazing supercomputers in our pockets, have about 1 billion times the price and speed and performance of a supercomputer from the 1970s. These are now exponential technologies that we're using in healthcare. And I just found actually my iPhone 2 the other day. It still works, but it feels kind of slow and clunky. Remember the early iPhones? They seem magical at the time. Now they're almost antique. I was at Apple headquarters a couple weeks ago, and I got a sneak peek at the iPhone 10 and the iPhone 12 or 11. Don't tell anyone, but think about where these things are going to be in 2 and 5 and 10 years, and how can they apply in healthcare and beyond. Because many of these technologies, like our smartphones, are riding exponential trends. Moore's Law is the example we most know of, the speed of technology doubling and getting cheaper every 18 to 24 months. And I want you to become exponential thinkers. Think about not the linear pace, 30 linear steps I'll be to the door. 30 exponential steps is 1 billion. That's 26 times around the planet. That's how things are moving quickly. And you need to have that exponential mindset as we move into this future if you want to be the disruptor, not the disruptee. Because we've seen it. The smart, the laptop of 2000 fits on our smartphone, now fits on my smart watch. All these technologies, which may have been $50,000 back in the 80s and 90s, now fits in your pocket. We're seeing computers the size of a grain of rice, all starting to be connected. So the Internet of Things is coming to the Internet of Medical Things, and gives us a tremendous opportunity to digitize or connect healthcare. It's often called digital health or mobile health or connected health. Soon I think we'll just call it health. But it does give us an opportunity to rethink and reimagine healthcare. So don't just think about Moore's Law, but think about all these technologies that are coming together, they're converging to enable us to rethink and reimagine healthcare and address many of the challenges you have here, whether you're in Finland, the United States, Africa, rising costs, aging populations, access to care, shortages of doctors and nurses. Lots of big data coming at us, but how do we make that small, useful information at the point of care? How do we help our friends, the regulatory bodies, the EMA, the FDA, and the insurance companies make sense and take these technologies forward? So lots of challenges, but lots of opportunity to reimagine healthcare. Just like we've reimagined all sorts of other fields. Everyone knows Uber. Uber's an exponential company. They couldn't have existed 10 years ago. They leveraged the smartphone, online GPS, online maps, online payments, connected the dots to bring us a new way to disrupt travel. They're actually even doing an Uber health pilot where you press a button on the app and a nurse will come and give you a flu shot. And now we're seeing several Ubers for health where you press a button on the app and a doctor comes to you. Not sure what kind of doctor, but you get a doctor. And you can rate them and they can rate you. So this Uberization is coming to healthcare and beyond. So all this, of course, is very disruptive to our friends in pharma, to our friends in insurance companies. So our opportunity is to be the disruptor, not the disruptee. No one wants to be the next Kodak or BlackBerry or Blockbuster. I get a chance to sort of live at the convergence of these technologies. I chair the medicine side of Singularity University. It's based in the heart of Silicon Valley. Our goal is to train today's leaders, future leaders, to understand the power of exponential technologies and how we layer them together to address grand challenges around the world. Our sort of core program is a 10-week program called the Global Solutions Program, held in Silicon Valley at our NASA headquarters every summer. And we ask our participants, for 80 participants from around the world, to understand exponential technologies and to apply them to big challenges. And about half of the new companies and ideas that have come out of our programs have actually been focused on healthcare. So some of you may want to join us this next summer. I'm announcing today that there's a new Global Impact Challenge for folks from Finland. We'll be sending 2 folks, maybe some of you here, to come join us for 10 weeks at Singularity University. The competition is for folks who can come up with a good idea to impact 1 million people, and also have an entrepreneurial global impact mindset. So go to su.org/impact/GIC and apply for this program. The top 5 winners will come to our big event in Denmark. We've had amazing folks from Finland and the Nordics come to Singularity University, so I hope you can join us this summer. Because so many folks come to Singularity University, they're not medical people, but they want to apply their mindset in healthcare. 5 years ago, I started a program called Exponential Medicine, which unsilos healthcare. Folks from all sorts of fields, from patients to doctors to technologists to investors. And now every fall, we bring these folks together to look at the overlaps of technology and how we apply them in healthcare. Here's our picture by drone this year. Because healthcare is a team sport. It requires all sorts of folks to come together as we reinvent things. Okay, let's look at a quick dive across a few areas and where they are and where they're moving. First of all, health and prevention. We know that our genetics are really important to our long-term health, but much more important is our behaviors. And now at this era, we can start to track our behaviors and understand how they impact most of our chronic and expensive diseases. And now we're in an era, of course, where you can start to measure those. I'm wearing like 4 different versions of Fitbits on my wrist. Some of you might have one. Some of you have one in your drawer. You lost the charger. But in this new era of quantified self, you can start to get insights into your behaviors, from your steps to your sleep. And we're moving quickly from quantified self to quantified health, where this data is going to start to connect to your doctor and the bigger healthcare cloud. In England, the NHS is starting to prescribe and pay for devices, glucometers, step counters. The sensors are evolving quickly from basic step counters to ones like RFIDs that can fit in your pill. And we can now sort of censor everything. We can digitize almost all this information, and major companies like Nokia, which is here, and I'm on their digital health advisory board, are getting into the healthcare space. They just acquired a company called WeThink. So lots of energies are coming into the space from major players. We can censor your swim helmet, your tennis racket. You can go from wearables to insidables. You know, Google is developing contact lenses together with Big Pharma to track blood sugar. So the idea of an insidable coming inside or onto our contact lenses. We're in the idea of trainables, not just data, but feedback. In our smartphone era, our postures aren't good. This is a little sensor out of Israel called Upright. Put it on your back, and it will nudge you to remind you to sit up straight. That can improve your posture, improve back pain. There are shockables, which can really get you moving. Hearables that don't just play music, but track your sleep and step and activity. Of course, a Finnish company, Aura, is a ring that can track your sleep and activity. Sleep is so important to our health. Our clothes are starting to get censored, not just for running triathlons, but for folks with heart failure and emphysema. We can censor our pregnant patients, women and their health and the health of the fetus. And when that baby is born, maybe you can get other information. This used to be a joke, a connected diaper, but now Huggies came out with Tweet Pee. You can figure out what that does. So lots of data can come to bear. The trick is, what do we do with it? Just having data doesn't make it useful. We need to start to tie that into the pediatrician, to the parent, and make sense of that information. We can quantify other things like your breath. This is the breathometer. It can track your blood alcohol level. If it's too high, it'll lock you out of your car and call you an Uber, but it can also track the quality of your breath, maybe pick up molecules that are indicative of early disease like lung cancer. We don't even need to wear devices. Now using Wi-Fi alone, Wi-Fi can pick up the vital signs of up to 10 people in the same room. So we're entering an era where our digital exhaust, terabytes of data, will be streaming off as us all the time. What do we do with that? It's a bit of a so what, unless if you have to keep charging the device, if your doctor can't access that information, if we can't make sense of the terabytes of data, but it's starting to come together. Samsung, Google, Apple, others are enabling the data to flow through your smartphones, and just in the last year, to your doctor's record into the cloud. And then through your smartphones and smart connected devices give you feedback that might be very useful for both prevention, therapy, and diagnosis. So we're entering an era with our consumer devices where they're gonna be important parts of our healthcare. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. And it's not just our simple vitals. We're gonna have health scores that integrate your financial health, your social network health, your sexual health. We can make those scores useful and actionable. A Finnish company, Firstbeat, can take your heart rate variability and give you a score through the day of your recovery. All this information can be made useful, not just overwhelming, because we're seeing digital coaches come. There are apps like Lark, which are chatbots to coach you through your day and remind me that I'm jet lagged and I need to get some sleep tonight early. Our connected homes with things like Amazon Echo are becoming healthcare platforms that can not just play music and order pizza, but help you guide your medical therapy or help you if you've had a medical issue. We'll see these coaches come to our digital mirrors. In the morning, you'll look and wake up and it'll give you a score and know what you did last night. And these digital mirrors may show you not just you of today, but you of tomorrow. You of tomorrow if you're working out, you're doing your exercise, or if you keep having donuts and pastries for breakfast, you of tomorrow. Yes, you know? Here's me 1,000 donuts later. That'll change my perceptions. So many of you here still smoke. This is a Finnish company that demonstrated the effects of smoking before and after, right? That might change your perception of behavior. Or if you spend too much time on Facebook, what happens, right? So that's an example of another technology coming to healthcare. Augmented reality is being applied for things like Google Glass in the operating room. Things like HoloLens is being used by medical students to learn anatomy or to do procedures in very specific and tuned ways. So we're seeing lots of interesting overlaps and new ways of thinking and bringing these technologies from the traditional tech world to healthcare. These new, for example, augmented reality headsets will enable us to throw away our computer screens, but also interact with anatomy and medical objects. Of course, there's virtual reality, the expensive version and the cheap version. This is now being used by surgeons to see complex data and save patients. We're live streaming surgeries, so now you can record a surgery and let medical students anywhere in the world understand that procedure. Actually, I was in London for the very first live stream surgery 6 months ago. About 5,000 people were watching that surgery in real time. And of course, VR and AR can help gaming and beyond. How about old school technologies? Meditation, yoga. We can now use technologies like brain-computer interfaces to look at our brains and help us do mindfulness. I might prescribe this to someone who has anxiety or depression and use these games to treat things like attention deficit disorder. All these things are already here today. We're sort of starting to gamify our brains and learn that with these headsets and feedback loops, we can dramatically impact normal and other cognition issues. What about genomics? We're in an age today where the price of sequencing your full genome is dropping at twice the rate of Moore's Law. From $1 million a few years ago to $1,000 today, you can do things like 23andMe and get insight into your pharmacogenomics, what kind of drugs you might take and what dose, what diseases you might have risks for. All this is available for a couple $100. I just had my $1,000 genome done. It comes with an app. And we're learning that diseases can be substratified based on their genetic level, like type 2 diabetes. There was just the launch of the first app store for your genome, so you can upload your genome and learn other information. The microbiome, the bugs in our gut, for example, we're learning are really important to things like inflammatory bowel disease, obesity, psychiatric disorders. You can get your own microbiome done for less than $80 and start to crowdsource that data. And new drug companies are developing new therapeutics, which will reboot our microbiome. How about the future of diagnostics? Again, we want to pick up disease early. We're now in an era as a physician that I can have a whole set of digital doctor tools, a digital doctor bag, something as simple as an otoscope to send home with your kids with an ear infection can be very useful for doing ear exams. We're throwing away the stethoscope because now there's $1,000 ultrasounds, replacing $300,000 ultrasounds that can connect to your smartphone. We're integrating whole devices into single devices that are connected to the web. You can do virtual dermatology visits. First Derm is here this week. You can submit your case right to the dermatologist, or increasingly, we'll be sending those directly to an artificial intelligence dermatologist that can understand with the app, is that a melanoma or a mole? Do you need to see an eye doctor, or can you use a smart attachment on your smartphone to look not just at the front of the eye, but at the retina as well? In the era of cardiology, a small attachment to your smartphone can let you pick up an EKG and diagnose heart disease. And these are even coming to the watch in the next few months. These are on sale today. So we're in an interesting era where I'm wearing a patch, for example. All these exponential technologies coming together. I'm wearing a little patch that's tracking my heart, my vital signs right now. My stress level is 100%, great. I can see my EKG right on the phone. That can be streamed anywhere in the world. That's a lot of technology and data. What do we do with it is part of the challenge in this era as well. Let's say you do pick up a heart problem. Do you want to get a catheterization? Maybe now you can do a virtual angiogram, a 30-second CT scan. That data is sent to the cloud, and the computation starts to analyze how narrow is your blood vessel. Do you need a bypass surgery, or do you need a stent? What kind of stent? And so this convergence of cloud-based computing and diagnostics and personalization will enable us to maybe even 3D print the stent that matches you in the near future. Diagnostics is being crowdsourced. There's new prizes, like I helped develop an X Prize to make a medical tricorder inspired by Star Trek. About 300 teams and companies came together to build a medical tricorder. One of them started at my Singularity University program. This company called Scanadu has made a medical tricorder. Hold it to your forehead, it pulls down your temperature, your heart rate, your O2 sat, your blood pressure, calculates that, talks to IBM Watson on your smartphone, communicates that to your clinician. They've also developed ways to do smart urine testing. You dip this little thing with the QR code in the urine, and the app can do the scoring and send that data to your doctor, to the CDC, to the NSA, whoever else wants that information. So point of care lab tests is democratizing healthcare and getting it cheaper. Some we can even print out, testing for Ebola or Zika virus or H1N1. And now with all this data coming at us, we can start to make sense of it, not just artificial intelligence, but intelligence augmentation, because no doctor, patient, farmer person can keep up and make sense of all these dots being connected. We need to connect the dots using AI to help us. And finally, these technologies don't replace the doctor-patient relationship. Hopefully they can augment them and bring a smarter, more connected healthcare. Last couple areas. Therapy. We want more tuned, personalized, less invasive therapies. Technologies are getting smaller. Fast-moving technologies like CRISPR for gene therapy, only 4 years old, is rapidly moving to the clinic. So gene therapy is coming in reality. We're seeing pills now that you can swallow, they can track when you took them. We're seeing electroceuticals, pacemakers, not just for the heart, but for the brain and for the gut, and to help things like snoring and sleep apnea. There are electroceuticals for contraception, controlled by remote control underneath your skin. You know, interesting conversations. Honey, where's the remote? Or what if someone hacks your remote? Or hacks your pacemaker? What do we do about privacy of this data? So the future of our clinical interventions is already here. There's an app for almost any medical element. We're seeing apps can lower the costs of care and reduce hospital readmissions. There are apps for lowering diabetes. There are connected glucometers that come with social networks. And so the nature of the doctor-patient relationship and the visit is already here. It's becoming telemedicinized, where you can interact in real time or asynchronously. And increasingly, we'll be using AI chatbots to do levels of those care. You can go on Facebook today and have chat communications with all these sorts of systems. Last two elements would be robotics. Robotics is coming quickly to medicine to deliver drugs and telemedicine and even wearable robotics for folks who have disability. Parts of that robotic exoskeleton are 3D printed. 3D printing is coming fast to medicine, whether it's printing a prosthetic that matches or replacing the cast with one that matches your arm or a knee implant. One of our Singularity companies sent the first 3D printer to the space station. Maybe you need to print a medical device there. So lots of these things are moving fast. I can even, of course, 3D print myself. Here's mini-me, which is kind of cute, but if I have a patient missing part of their face, I might want to 3D print part of their prosthetic or a 3D printed drug. And finally, all these technologies can make healthcare more available and decrease the boundaries. The bottom billion, the poorest on the planet, all have smartphones. Soon they're all going to have SMS phones. Soon they're going to have smartphones. And with things like Google Loon, 3 billion people will be coming online soon. So information is power. We can bring healthcare across the planet and sometimes even deliver technology using things like drones. This is one of our SU startups, Matternet, to bring devices and drugs in many parts of the world, or deliver a defibrillator, or maybe organ donation, or a drone ambulance. Last minute, discovery. We want to all be part of the future of healthcare. We can all now be part of that by downloading clinical trials, like things from ResearchKit. It might be a thing for asthma, for autism, for Parkinson's. You download the app, it can track your activities. So this new ability democratizes research. We can crowdsource healthcare, just like you crowdsource driving. You wouldn't imagine driving without Google Maps or Waze. You can build a map of Rome from just the driver data. What if we had that same mindset in healthcare, where we crowdsourced our healthcare data and received information back, like the traffic? So think about the future, not just being a blood donor or an organ donor, but being a data donor from whatever organization you're in. And use that to be thinking exponentially, not where the puck is today in 2016, but where it'll be in 2018 and 2020. As Wayne Gretzky, the hockey player, says, go and skate to where the puck will be. And think, again, exponentially, the overlap of all these technologies, many of you are building them today, have the opportunity to really reshape healthcare across the spectrum, from a sort of sick care system, intermittent and reactive, and episodic, to a real healthcare system around the planet, continuous and proactive. So let's all take not linear steps, but exponential steps, and together we can not just imagine the future of healthcare, but go forth and create it together. So with that, I'll say thank you very much, and go build that future. Thanks.